Hillary was in Haiti yesterday. The day before, or a couple of days before, we had a big donors conference in Washington on Haiti. Haiti has been a beleaguered country, often oppressed and often ignored for 200 years since they waged the first successful slave revolt in world history and installed a democracy. And then the man who did it, Toussaint Louverture, was falsely lured into a phony peace talks in Switzerland 200 years ago, thrown in jail and never heard from again. In my lifetime, and I've been going down there now since Hillary and I were given, as a present, a delayed honeymoon trip there in December of 1975. I'm old. In those 34 years, they got the best chance they'd ever had to slip the bonds of poverty and the image that they are always consigned to be the poorest country in the hemisphere and just a problem. But they suffered 4 hurricanes and severe storms in 1 year, and it cost them 15% of their GDP. So all these other governments that are strapped for cash are being asked to give them enough to get through the end of the year on their budget, to build them a genuine national road network. And I went down there to tell them that if they do just those 2 things, that I would make it my personal call to see that we got philanthropic and non-governmental interests to go in and try to build them a self-sufficient energy system and redo the schools and provide them a rural health network that is as good as the one they have in the capital city. We can do all these things together. But should you care about it? You bet you should. I care a lot about it here because a few years ago, one of my friends was operated on in a New York hospital, and there were complications, was in the emergency room, and I went by to visit, and the chief doctor was a Haitian doctor. And we talked about his country, and he said, he thanked me for getting rid of a military dictator and said he wished things were better. And I asked him what he was doing, and he said not much, but he said if I thought it would make a difference, I would do a lot. And now we're in a position where it will make a difference. I'm just saying all this to make the same point over and over again. I hate to sound like a broken record, but we live in an interdependent world. It can be good, bad, or both. By and large, it's both. Good for us, not so good for other people. But interdependence just means one thing. Divorce is not an option. And once you consider that divorce is not an option, then you ought to make the best of the rest of your life. And your life is their life. It's our common life. I wish I could live to be 120 because I actually believe the 21st century will likely be the most exciting, interesting time to be alive in all of human history. We got to stop some nut for doing something with nuclear technology. Do what we can to contain the biological and chemical hazards and keep countering the destructive forces and deal with our own foolishness, which is what we're doing in America now, dealing with the aftermath of our own foolishness. But mankind, humankind, is stumbling in the right direction. I never thought I'd live to see 300 women marching in Kabul, Afghanistan, demanding the repeal of that awful law that they just signed. And the president said, well, maybe we'll have to get rid of it. That's a big deal, folks. It's a little thing involving a few people that is a big deal about the universal aspiration of human beings to be empowered and to live in dignity and to chart a harmonious course. Every single one of us can do something to help. And because we can, we should. Thank you very much.
If you'd like. Just like to thank you. Thank you again, Mr. President.